This is Derek Frank, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking Podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Antietam, and with me in Dog Bowl Studio is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on X at No Shock Pod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Big Strix Vinyl Records and Sports Cards, located in Rock Island, Illinois. New, vintage, and previously owned. You can find it at Big Strix. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Derek Frank, a session and touring bass player.
Yeah, for the likes of
Don Felder,
Gwen Stefani,
Kelly Clarkson,
and Shania Twain.
Yeah.
Fantastic interview. Let's get to it.
All right, good night.
Good night. Derek, welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'd like to introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Antietam.
Derek, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Man, it's just such an honor to have you on, and thank you for, I think we've been playing email tag with you probably the better part of, 6 months to make this happen, so we're so excited to have you.
Right on. Yeah, it's just been hard to coordinate schedules with, you guys and me being on the road, and just things come up, and yeah, it's been a little crazy, so glad we could finally coordinate our schedules.
Yeah, man, you're a busy dude. So, very busy this past 2025. I'm not sure where to start. So, but I know that you're going to be on tour, right? You said you're going to be hitting the Midwest and the Chicagoland area here pretty soon. Can you talk about this tour you got come up with your solo endeavor?
Well, I actually just got back from Chicago. It was just a weekend of gigs.
Yes.
Yeah, I just had 2 nights at Andy's Jazz Club, which is I think a long-standing jazz club in downtown Chicago. We just played November 14th and 15th, and it was a lot of fun. It was my first time bringing my own band out to Chicago. I mean, I've played in Chicago many times with other acts, but it's my first time bringing my own band out there, and it was a lot of fun.
Can you talk a little bit more about the experience playing at Andy's? How'd you like it? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was really cool. I'd never been there before, so I had no idea what to expect. It was just something that my agent booked for me. She just said, "Look, I've got 2 nights in Chicago. It's at a jazz club. It's like a 2-show a night situation. You're kind of a classic jazz club setup." And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." Chicago's a great city, great music city. But I just had no idea what to expect. But it was really great. It's a fairly small jazz club. I would say it's probably, it's listed as as a seating capacity of 144, but I think really they seat about 100 to 120 per set. But it was great. We were able to sell out every set, so those 4 shows, it was really cool. People were very receptive, and brought my band out there. I've got 3 of us are from LA. One lives in Edmonton, Canada. One lives in Denver. we all went out there and had a great time. I have a lot of friends in Chicago as well, so it was great to see them. A lot of my friends came out, and yeah, it was great. So hopefully we'll do it again and maybe build a small tour around that. Maybe hit somewhere in Michigan, maybe Indianapolis. There's some other cities around there, Milwaukee. There's some places around Chicago. So maybe next time we can use Chicago as an anchor and book a few other things.
Excellent.
I know we were going to get into your solo albums and stuff like that, but let's start with you were just talking about your live stuff, your most recent, in case, let's see, I think it was called In Case You Missed It, Volume 1. Can you talk a little bit about that live album?
Yeah, some of these venues that we play these days are just set up for recording. A lot of the mixing desks that they have kind of recording capability. You just give them a hard drive and they're able to give you multi-track audio. So we've done that a few times with some of them, and sometimes the shows we play turn out pretty good. So, sometimes we use it for video. And a lot of times I'll get the video files, and I have a lot of that backlog that I'm wanting to put out. I just haven't had time to edit the video along with the audio. But for this one in particular, just in doing my research about the whole indie DIY stuff and the whole trying to work the Spotify algorithms, a lot of that stuff works best if you're constantly releasing stuff. So for me, I was like, well, I don't really have time to get into more writing and go into the studio again. So maybe I'll just release a live album because I have some stuff recorded. So that show turned out pretty well. It was a show we did at Alva's showroom in San Pedro, California. And so I just decided to have that mixed and release it as a live album. So I put that out, I think, when was that? I think towards the end of 2024, I think we put that out. It's all a blur at this point, but yeah, kind of the main reason I put that one out was just, to work those Spotify algorithms to just kind of release more content. And I think I put that out before I released my origin story record, or it could have been shortly after that. But yeah. And honestly, the band has evolved quite a bit since then. So I've got some other live material that I may or may not release another live album from. So there are a few ideas I've got with that with the kind of live stuff. So there may be another one in the works.
Well, to capitalize on that question, talk about creating your set list for your live shows. Is it something that you stay pretty consistent, or do you revolve, I guess maybe evolve your set list into night by night, or how does it work for you and the rest of your band?
It kind of changes. I mean, we've got some songs that work really well as openers, and then we've got some songs that work really well as closers for the sets. And then every show is a little different as far as the length of show that the venue wants. In this case, with this Andy's show that we just did, every set is treated like a show with a different crowd. So, and it's like an hour and 15-minute show. So we pretty much did the same set for each show. I kind of made a set that I thought really represented the band well. I kind of picked, a sort of a greatest hits, if you will. Mm-hmm. And because the crowd was different every set, they would clear the room and then let a new crowd in for each set. So out of those 4 shows, it was pretty much the same. I would swap out a few songs, but in that case, we pretty much did the same set. But then a lot of the shows we do 2 sets of sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 75 minutes, mm-hmm. sometimes it's 90 minutes, and we'll do 2 of those. And in that case, we're doing completely different sets. And if they're 2 90-minute shows, that's kind of most of my material. So I'm kind of playing everything at that point. So it's a lot of material. And then, sometimes it's even short. If we're doing an opening thing, or if it's, just kind of like a quick little showcase kind of thing, then I got to decide on 6, 7, or 8 songs. And then it's really tough because it's okay, what can you do with that many songs? How do you make the most impact with that many songs? And that's where it gets kind of tough to choose.
Very good.
Well, let's talk about Origin Story. You mentioned that one. Love the album cover mm-hmm. with the comic book feel mm-hmm. to it. Can you talk a little bit about the making of that one?
Yeah, that was one that I kind of started in 2023. I was on the road with Shania Twain most of the year. And towards the end of that tour, I was getting really burnt out on just kind of being kind of a backing musician, hired gun. I think especially on her tour, it wasn't, without going into detail, it wasn't really the most satisfying tour for me, artistically. And so I just really, at the end of that tour, I just decided I really needed to go deep on my own project. Like I had released 2 albums before, and I'd done a bunch of my own shows, and that was fun, but I never really treated it as my main thing. And so at the end of that tour, I was like, you know what, I need to do another album, and I need to like really dedicate some time to my own project because I'm unsatisfied right now. So that's what I did. And so hence Origin Story we recorded I got back from that tour in November of 2023, and we recorded Origin Story in January and March of 2024. And I just kind of started writing immediately when I got back from the tour. I just needed a creative outlet. So I did that in 2024. I really didn't work a whole lot as a hired gun. I didn't have a regular artist gig I was doing. I just pretty much devoted all of my time to my solo project, to trying to get my band out on the road a little bit, play outside of LA, and just to kind of see if I could do it, see what kind of traction I could build as an artist. It was really eye-opening. It was very difficult and very expensive. I was under no illusion that I would make money doing it. But I'm glad I did it, and I'm going to keep doing it. But now I'm kind of back to being a hired gun again and spending time on the road with other artists. And now I'm kind of back to my solo project, kind of taking a back seat to that, but I'm still going to focus a portion of my career on that.
I love Cul-de-sac. Can you talk a little bit more about the creation of that song? Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Yeah, the creation of that was like we were doing, in my live sets, we would do a few covers here and there. And these days we don't do a lot of covers. It's mostly originals as I kind of build more originals. Mm-hmm. And we used to do the Booker T and the MG's song Hip Hugger, which is kind of a blues, kind of an extended blues. It's like a 16-bar blues. And I kind of wanted to write something in that vein because it was a really fun song to solo over and a really good song to like play at the top of the set to like kind of ease people into stuff, because some of my stuff is a little more hard-hitting. And so I just kind of wanted to write something along those lines. So really Hip Hugger was kind of the inspiration behind Cul-de-sac. It's that kind of thing. It's like the 16-bar blues with like kind of a unique turnaround, a non-typical turnaround, and something that, was fun to solo over. So that was kind of the influence there. And I kind of like the sound of, to get kind of into musical terms here. I like the sound of like playing sevenths on bass, like playing a root note with a seventh on top. And that's where that bass line comes from, where it's like, I'm playing a C with a B flat on top of it and kind of holding it. So you get that sort of tension. And that's kind of where that, the basis of that bass line comes through. And then, bass-wise, I'm using a 1966 Harmony H22 hollow body bass that I love to play, and I don't really take that on the road or play it live a whole lot, but in the studio, I just thought that bass would really sound great on that track. So that's what that one is.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Good job.
I really liked the 11 Years Later album. A good mixture of covers. You got the Trooper from Iron Maiden on there. There's a song on there, Onward, featuring Joe Bonamassa. Can you talk a little bit about the making of that track?
Yeah, that was one that sort of came together as a jam with the whole band. Like that album was definitely a pandemic project. That was like, again, I was doing a residency, a Vegas residency with Shania. And, we all got shut down. It was one of those things where like we had no idea what was going to happen with the whole COVID thing. We were in the dressing room and, everybody's tours were getting canceled, but there were 2 residencies still alive in Vegas. It was us and Rod Stewart. And we were like, are we going to keep doing this? Like, how's this going to work? And then our tour manager came in the dressing room. He's like, all right, guys, that's it. We're going home. So we went home, and I just kind of figured, all right, well, I'm home. I don't know how long this is going to last. I'm going to write another solo album. So I immediately started writing, because I didn't know how long, we were going to be out of work. And I was like, well, I'm going to take advantage of this time. So that's where 11 years later was born. And but we're talking about Onward. So I wrote a bunch of songs, and I brought the guys over to my studio, and we rehearsed the songs before going into the studio. And I kind of needed one other song. So we just kind of started jamming, and just to see what we came up with. And that's kind of how Onward was born. Like my guitarist Joshua Ray Gooch started kind of came up with the main changes for the A section, and we just sort of built on that as a band. And as you can see, like in the credits, we're all credited as writers on that one. And then I wanted to have some guests on it, or at least one guest. And I'd done a couple things with Joe Bonamassa before, and I was like, it'd be really fun to have him play on something. And I was like, maybe this would be a good one for him to just shred on. And it's not, it's not a blues, but it's a rock thing. And, Joe's just great at blues, rock, whatever. And so I hit him up. I gave him a call or a text or whatever. And he was like, yeah, I'm not doing anything. I'll play on it. Because, it was a great time to reach out to someone like Joe Bonamassa, who normally would be incredibly busy and hard to pin down for a guest spot. But he was like, yeah, send me the track. He was in New York at the time. And he has an apartment there. And so he did it remotely. So he was down to do it. I just sent him the track without guitar. He went to a studio out there that I booked for him, and just sent it back. And, it was ripping, as you would expect from Joe Bonamassa. So, it was great that he was willing to do it and available. Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, I want to follow that up with, it was a great album, but most of the tracks, I love the mixture of your own original and a few covers, but you also have one on there, I think it's All Day Sucker, that has a little bit of a vocal take to it. Most of the stuff's instrumental, but can you talk a little bit about, All Day Sucker? And then, following on to that, there's a newer track that you released that was really amazing, was Dog.
Okay, yeah. All Day Sucker, that I put that on there as a bonus track, and that's actually a single I put out in 2014. And that's one that I used to do live. I used to do kind of a semi-regular gig at this club in LA that's no longer there. It was called Cafe Cordial. And it was a great place that was like a major musician hang. It's a place where we could try some stuff out. So at the time I was experimenting with vocoder and using a synth with vocoder, which is a thing where you can like put your voice and a synth through at the same time, to where your synth controls the note, the pitches, but then your voice, you can hear the what you're saying through your voice, but the actual pitches come from the synth. So I had a few songs I would do with that. And I decided to do like a little video that you can find on YouTube of that, where I played everything except the drums. I had Herman Matthews, great drummer, do the drum track on that. And I did it for a fun little YouTube video, and then I released it as a single. And then because I did this record, I was like, maybe I'll put that on as a bonus track. So that's what that was. And on that one, I'm kind of emulating Marcus Miller, doing kind of a slap bass melody thing. I just thought that song, maybe I'm a huge Stevie Wonder fan. I just, thought that song would lend itself really well to the bass playing the melody and then the vocoder doing the chorus. And I haven't done that one live in a long time for two reasons. First of all, I haven't done the vocoder thing live in a really long time. And I haven't really done the slap bass melody thing in a long time. Like lately, over the past handful of years, I've gravitated towards more of a kind of an old school finger style approach with flat wound strings, as opposed to the slapping thing. But that was a fun one. And, I keep toying with the idea of bringing the vocoder thing back. So it might make its way into my sets again at some point. It's just a lot more gear to bring out to gigs.
Well, you touched upon, the pandemic of being sent home off of a residency. We talked a lot of artists that had a difference in opinion about the pandemic of having that downtime. A lot of them found a creative renaissance in their songwriting and creativity. Others felt like they were kind of maybe had writer's block. They didn't have the motivation to create. For you said you created an album. The album during the pandemic. Was it a time of suffering to get through that album, or did you find that your creative juices were at its highest during that time?
My creative juices were really flowing at first. Like, honestly, we did that album pretty quickly. Like, I got home, like mid-March, and just started writing, and then we recorded the album in July. So, I think we we kind of got together to rehearse and sort of arrange the stuff together, maybe in like June, and then recorded it in July, and I think I released it in September. So it all came together, start to finish, within 6 months, which is really, I mean, kind of quick to like write, start writing and then release a record. But then, obviously the pandemic raged on, and we musicians did not get back to work for quite a while. So after that was done, it was kind of like, well, now what,
Right.
So, so then I kind of like the creative juices kind of stopped flowing, and I didn't really know what to do then. And then it kind of, started freaking out a little bit after that. And, a lot of people were just getting into like shooting videos and doing video editing. And I tried to do some of that, but I just really was not and am not good at it, and wasn't interested enough to really dig into it and get good at it. And I'm still not that into it. That's the kind of thing I'd rather just pay someone who is good at it and is interested in it to come do it. So after that, it was kind of like, man, I did some practicing and some transcribing and try to do some work, but a lot of times, I would just, I don't know, it was difficult, as it was for a lot of us. It was difficult to get in the headspace of wanting to create. So I spent a lot of time snowboarding and playing video games, just trying to pass the time as best as I could.
With everything that you're involved with outside of your solo band, how do you find the time to squeeze in, time for your own projects? Obviously you had time with this last solo endeavor, but you're a busy guy. How do you devote time to your own creativity now? You've done the residencies, you've done, the hired gun session work, you've been on the road. I guess, where do you find time to say, okay, I need to find time for my own creative outlet?
Well, like I said, like 2024, I didn't really have an artist gig. So I would do some subbing here and there, but I wasn't really on the road with other artists that much. So that's kind of how I had the time then. And then this year, I recorded a few singles early in the year, and that was kind of before I got to work touring. And then most of the year was crazy busy. So my intention this year was to go into the studio a few times and release a few singles, do the whole like waterfall release strategy where you kind of release a few singles leading up to a record. But I didn't have the time to finish writing and recording a full record. So that's still something I'd like to do. But yeah, I didn't find the time to do that, because in May, I did some subbing with Kelly Clarkson, and then soon after that, I went on a summer tour with Don Felder, and then right after that, I went on tour with Melissa Etheridge, and then I just got home, and I have a few other things that I'm doing. So maybe in the winter, I'm about to calm down for the year, so maybe in the winter, because I don't go on tour again until the end of March. Maybe then I'll start writing a few songs and get into recording them at some point. But yeah, when I'm really busy and on the road with other artists, it is hard to find the time. So, yeah, I find the time mostly when I'm not working with other artists.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Well, I just got one last question on your solo stuff. What drew me in a lot too was the cover art. And everything's digital now. You go on iTunes, or you go on Spotify, but you still have to have cover art that draw,
visual.
It reminds me of going to the record store and looking through, and I would see a cover and I'd go, ooh, I need to check that one out or whatever. So you still kind of have the flashy stuff to draw the listeners in. And I really like the choices you had on there. Is there a particular artist you use, or is it multiple people, or how does it work for you?
Well, for 11 years later, obviously we did that pandemic, and that was just shot in the studio. There's a photographer named Miriam Santos that came in, and we did a photo shoot in my studio for that one. And then for the designer, I found someone on Fiverr. There's so many great designers, graphic designers on there. I found someone on there to do all the layout. And then for origin story, it's kind of interesting. Like, obviously people can use AI for all kinds of stuff, but I was so against that because I'm like, as an artist myself, I'm like, AI will not replace us. So I wanted to just have someone actually draw the comic book cover and make it real, So I went on Fiverr because there's all kinds of great comic book artists on there and stuff. So, and it's the kind of thing where you have to kind of hire someone first, and you pay for the job first. So I did that, and I immediately went for, I think, 4 artists at once because I just wanted to see who was going to do the best thing, because I was kind of in a hurry. I kind of waited a little too long to get the cover art done. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to hire 4 artists and the best one wins, So, and I made a mock-up. I can do some graphic design. So I just kind of pieced something together as a mock-up to give them an idea. So I hired 4 artists. Out of those 4, only 2 delivered. 2 just completely flaked and didn't deliver anything. And the 2 that delivered were terrible. So I'm like, all right, I guess I got to take this into my own hands. So unfortunately, I did use AI for that, but it's a combination of AI and my own design. So I did a lot of the Photoshop work for that. I used AI for the background and then for the character, but then I took my face off of just a photo, and I used this comic book filter, and then I put that on the body, and then I tweaked a bass clef to put it on the character, and then I made the little I did the font and the little Marvel comic thing. So a lot of it I did myself, and then for the rest of the layout, I hired a graphic designer that I used for all my posters. He's a guy named Glenn that goes by Obscurest Vinyl on Instagram, and he makes these fake albums that are vintage kind of 70s, and they're hilarious. And he's a guy that I've been following on Instagram for a while, and I just started hitting him up to do all my gig posters and flyers and stuff. So he did all the layout and the kind of interior of the record and the back and all that stuff. So that's how that all came together.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, such the cool thing about being a session guy or a hired gun, or that it's based on your phone ringing and what opportunities come your way. And you subbed with Kelly Clarkson, or for Kelly Clarkson, on her Atlantic City show, as well as her Las Vegas residency. Can you give our listeners an insight to the how that opportunity came your way and the nuts and bolts of it all?
Yeah, well, she used to do her talk show, the Kelly Clarkson show. It's a daytime talk show. She used to do that here in LA at Universal, which is real close to where I live. And my friend Kyle Whalen was playing bass in her band, and he was juggling Kelly Clarkson and Katy Perry, who also had a Vegas residency. And so he's doing the female pop singer gig, as I was too. At the time, I was juggling Shania Twain and Gwen Stefani. So obviously we work in the same kind of circuit. So he would call me to fill in for him with Kelly. And, I lived pretty close by and kind of, could play stylistically the same thing. So he would call me to fill in for him on the TV show. So I would do that a bunch when they were in LA. Then they moved to New York. She moved the show to New York. And our friend Joe Ayub took over as the bass player because he didn't want to move to New York. He had just bought a house. He had a family out here. So our friend Joe Ayub took over the gig and moved to New York. And so now I'll fill in for Joe, but not on the TV show. So sometimes, and now Joe juggles, he's in the American Idol house band as well as Kelly's band. So sometimes he'll sub out Kelly's gig to do the American Idol band. A lot of us do this. We juggle several gigs, and we sub this out to hold on to this gig, and it's a whole game we play. So now, because I'd already been kind of subbing on Kelly, Joe will call me like when Kelly has some concerts that he can't do, I'll go fill in for him. So the last two Atlantic City weekends she's done, which was last year and this year, I filled in for him. And then, just a couple weeks ago in Vegas, she has a really great Vegas residency called the Studio Sessions. And I just went and filled in 2 shows for him on that. That's a great one. She's got a 20-piece band with strings and horns, and it's completely live. There's no supplemental backing tracks. She's got some of the best backup singers in the business, and it's just it's really cool. And so that was really fun. I just did 2 of those shows.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, I always am amazed by hearing some of these stories of, we'll hear where one guy gets a call and he's got, 4 days to learn all the music he's got to play. I mean, I guess talk a little bit about that approach to, you got to either have an idea of what songs are, or you got to study really hard, or you're just a professional musician and it's no problem for you. How does it work?
It's a little different every time. Like sometimes it's if something comes up last minute, somebody has a family emergency or something like that. Sometimes it can come up last minute and you just, have to learn stuff real quick. And in that case, a lot of times you'll make your own charts, like your own kind of cheat sheets. And sometimes you'll have to kind of read those on the gig, like put it on an iPad and, kind of have that clip to a mic stand or something to read on the gig, because you might just not have enough time to memorize everything. But in this case, like on gigs like this, if I have time, I don't like to do that. I like to be rock and roll about it and memorize the stuff. So if I have time, if it's not a time crunch, I'll just practice it over and over and over again and listen to it over and over again. Like when I'm working out, driving around, sitting on a plane, and just kind of try to burn it into my brain. And memorize it. So it is a lot of work to do that. I mean, the times that I've filled in for Kelly, I've been able to do that. And I'd say on most of the gigs that I've either subbed on for people or started, like I've done a lot of gigs where there's no rehearsal. It's just like, hey, can you jump in on this tour? And it's like, yeah, but they gave me the material, with enough advance notice that I can take the time to memorize it. So with most of those, I'm able to put the work in. And it's a lot of work, but the thing is, first of all, I enjoy it, and it's worth putting the work in, because then you go and, if you know the material ahead of time, then you're not stressed on the gig, and it's a lot more fun. Like, all the stuff, so you can just relax and play, and it's a lot more enjoyable. And then my whole mentality of that is like, well, if I don't work really hard and do this, someone else will, right. There's always someone willing to put that work in. So like, if you don't put the work in and don't do the job to the best of your ability, like there's someone else that will. So, that's kind of why I work as hard as I do.
Well, this past summer you toured with Don Felder along with REO Speedwagon and Styx. Outside of this past summer tour, have you ever worked with Don Felder before? And on the flip side of that, how do you like doing these summer heritage tours with these old fogies?
Well, that was my first time doing one like that, and being the opening act. Like, I've done a lot of like summer tours, and I don't know, not to sound like too big for my britches, but it's usually like with a headliner. Like, not that Don Felder's not headliner material. Guy was in the Eagles and wrote Hotel California, but right. Just we were positioned as the opening act and had a short set. But it was great. It was so fun. I mean, so many great songs. It's like I got to play Eagles songs, like and sing harmonies on Eagles songs. Like, how great is that? I've been listening to that stuff my whole life. And then afterwards, get to listen to REO Speedwagon and then Styx, and they all sound great still. So that was super fun. Like, I really enjoyed it and got along with everybody great. Like, everybody was really cool. But I hadn't really worked with Don before. Like, before that tour, we'd done one show together, maybe like a month before the tour. and we've been talking for a couple of years, but the timing never worked out. Like my friend Ty Bailey, a great keyboard player, he had recommended me to Don a couple of years prior. And Don called me like maybe a month before the 2023 Shania tour, or a couple months before that, and asked me about doing some gigs. At the time, I wasn't positive I was going on the Shania tour. So we kind of, I kind of like said, I'll let you know as soon as I know. But then I ended up, getting confirmed for the tour. So, and I think he called me again another time, but I was wrapped up in something else. And so, yeah, it's just like, we talked a couple times and the timing never worked out. And then finally his manager called and said, okay, we got this summer tour coming up. Like, can you do it? And I had nothing booked. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So we did that. And then there was like another gig, that came up a couple months before that. That was, a casino. And that was kind of like my sort of warm up gig.
Oh, so cool. Well, speaking of that, you're going to be performing with Don Felder here soon at the Las Vegas Raiders home game and the halftime show. That's quite the opportunity. Yeah. Is there a story behind this? How did it come to the way? Are you just part of the ride for this?
Well, Don's good friends with Mark Davis, the Raiders owner.
Oh, okay.
And And Mark Davis is actually like really tied into the entertainment community in Vegas. Like when I was doing the Gwen Stefani residence there, we used to see him quite a bit in the crowd. And then he's friends with Shania. So like we used to see him in the crowd there. And then like we had a rap party at Shania's house after that residency ended. And I was, got to talking to him there, and he's a big guitar collector and a big guitar aficionado. So like he likes to, he's just really into guitarists and musicians, and he's good friends with Orianthi, this other guitar player that I work with sometimes. And he gets Ori to play some events for the Raiders, and I think Don goes to some of the Raiders games, and so it just makes sense. He invited Don to play the halftime show. I'm still in the rotation in Don's band. Don has kind of a roster of musicians just because people aren't always available. Sure. So he's got kind of a roster. So I still get called to do some Don shows, and so he called me to do this. And I think he's using Dave Amato from REO Speedwagon, because REO Speedwagon's basically on hiatus right now. There's kind of a battle over the name. Actually, over the summer they were going by the Kevin Cronin Band because there was a legal battle over the name. And right now REO Speedwagon is like kind of done unless they resolve these issues. So Don's actually hiring some of them to play in his band. So Dave Amato is going to be on the gig this Sunday, and I'm not sure who else is going to be in the band, but yeah, it's pretty fun playing with Dave. We did a gig a few weeks ago.
Well, even better. Fantastic.
Can't wait to tune into that one.
But it'll be fun. It's going to be real short, as these halftime shows are. So it's going to be like a 10-minute show. We're going to do like 2 songs, like a 2-song medley.
Yeah,
very good.
That'd be cool. And I'm not sure if it's going to make it to TV or not. I'm not really sure. Sometimes these things, like, they'll just, as they're like going to commercial break, they'll like kind of the camera will pan across the stage and show us for a quick second. But, because it's not like a major playoff game or a Super Bowl, they may not show the whole performance. It might, you might catch a glimpse at, as they're going to commercial or something.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Do that with NASCAR races a lot too.
Okay, yeah.
A sad moment we had this year was the loss of Ozzy Osbourne, but probably a fun experience getting to do the Ozzy Osbourne tribute with some stellar performers there. Can you talk a little bit about being a part of the Video Music Awards?
Yeah, that was a really cool thing to be a part of. So we did an Ozzy Osbourne tribute at the MTV Video Music Awards. Nuno Betancourt, the guitar player from the band Extreme, he was the musical director of it, and he called me to play. And it was with Youngblood and Steven Tyler and Joe Perry of Aerosmith. It was really cool. We did a medley of songs, and it's another thing we did completely live with no backing tracks, no click track, like nothing synced up. Everything was completely manual, which was cool and pretty rock and roll, because Video Music Awards, a lot of things they play it safe. Everything is like very automated, but this, even the pyro, like they wanted things to be synced to a computer, and it was just like, no, push the buttons at the right time, So it was cool. But yeah, that was that came together just like a couple weeks prior, because I think someone else was supposed to do it. It was supposed to MD it. I'm not going to say who because he got fired, and then Nuno got the call to do it because Nuno and Youngblood had just done a performance at the Black Sabbath Back to the Beginning concert, which was Ozzy's last performance, and it was a really good performance of the song Changes, and so that was kind of like at the forefront of people's minds. So that's kind of how that got put together. And I'd done a bunch of things with Nuno in the past, and so he thought of me, fortunately, and gave me a call. And the funny thing is, when he first hit me up about it, I had to say no, and he didn't even tell me what it was. He just texted me. He was like, "Hey, are you available these dates?" And I was like, "Damn it, I'm not." Because I had a show in California. I had a festival, this thing called the June Lake Jam Fest with my own band, and I couldn't get out of it because it was like something that I'd been promoting for months, and I agreed to, and contracted, blah blah blah. And the thing is, I could have done the show, but I couldn't do the rehearsal. There's one rehearsal in New York, and I was like, man, I can do the show, but not that rehearsal date. And he was like, bummer. And then he was like, yeah, it's this MTV VMAs with so and so, and I was just like, damn it. But still, I couldn't bail on my own gig because it's like I said, I was very committed to it, and it would have like pissed a lot of people off. So I was bummed. But then 2 days later, he texted me again and said, what if we move the rehearsal to this date? Could you do it? Because I think someone else, maybe Steven or someone, had the same problem. They couldn't rehearse that one date. So I was like, if I can fly to New York, do the rehearsal, fly back to do my gig, and then fly back to New York, I can pull it off. So it was a hectic few days. I took a red eye to New York, rehearsed all day. At the end of the day, I took like a 9 p.m. flight back to LA. I got in at like 1:30 a.m. The next morning at like 9 a.m. I had to drive 5 hours, went and played a show, and immediately drove back to LA, and then 6 a.m. flew back to New York and went right to a rehearsal, and then did the VMAs. So yeah, it was a little crazy.
Oh man.
I hope
awesome
you got
performance.
But yeah, so it was a nutso few days, but it was so cool, and I was honored to have been asked, and honored to have been been able to pay tribute to Ozzy, because really, like, Ozzy was one of the first artists that I started listening to when I was young, and I remember like watching MTV when I was a kid, and being such an Ozzy fan. I remember they showed the 1982 Speak of the Devil concert, and I remember watching that. Rudy Sarzo was on bass, who I actually just ran into in the airport. He's super nice guy, one of my all-time favorites, and he was on bass, and I just remember seeing that as a kid and being heavily inspired by it. And so just kind of a full circle moment to be able to pay tribute to Ozzy on MTV was a true honor for sure.
Oh, so amazing. It wouldn't behoove us if we didn't talk a little bit about your work with Shania Twain and Gwen Stefani. You were part of Shania Twain's touring band for 8 years and Gwen Stefani's band and residency for 4 years. I know this is going to be kind of a hard question for you to answer, but can you compare and contrast working with these two ladies, two huge names in the business, similarities, differences? How would you compare working with the two?
Well, obviously the music's a little different,
right.
But a little similar, just in that they're both like very big pop productions. They're very big, they're both like big arena shows, and they both had. And the interesting thing is they both ended up having Vegas residencies in the same theater, and that's kind of why I was able to sort of juggle both for a couple of years, which ended up being great. I was able to kind of do both, and kept really busy with them both. But yeah, they're just kind of similar in that way, in that they're big productions for a time. I mean, my first kind of couple runs with Shania, it was just band, it wasn't dancers, so she didn't go that route. But then later on, it was just, it was dancers. It was like a lot of focus on the visual element, which was definitely a thing for Gwen as well. Because when I started with Gwen, I started with the Vegas residency, and then that turned into us doing a lot of shows around the world, a lot of festivals and things like that, to where there was a lot of visuals, a lot of like video content, dancers, lights, things like that. And then, in the later years with Shania, we had a lot of that as well. So it was always a big production. And both of them, I was wireless and active, very active on the stage. As you can imagine, with Gwen coming from No Doubt and those guys, the way that they were just kind of running around and jumping on the stage, we really had that element on the Gwen shows as well. So it was like, full cardio workout on those shows. We were just, making full use of the whole stage, just running and jumping. And it was a lot of fun, just getting to just run around like an idiot. It was super fun while playing that stuff. And then with Shania, it wasn't so much of that, but my whole tenure with Shania, we were always super mobile. Like we always had headset mics. And for the most part, up until the last tour, really, we were never in the same place for each song. Like it was like, okay, for this song, you're at this part of the stage. And then for this song, you're over here. And this song, you're over here, especially on the Vegas residencies. So like we were always moving around. So, in those aspects, the shows were pretty similar.
Very good. Talk a little bit about, you have your own remote recording business called Bass Tracks Online. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about how that got started and how it works?
Yeah, I started that a long time ago because really, like years ago, there was kind of this shift in session recording, whereas people started recording remotely a lot, just recording at home rather than going into studios. It used to be when you got called for a recording session, you'd go into a studio with the other musicians and track together. And just once people started being able to kind of get their own home studios together, once that became a lot more feasible, it just became the norm and also a lot more economical. So a lot of artists nowadays will kind of just send you tracks to play on. And so I've built a home studio and I have all my basses at home and have some decent equipment to record with. So it just got to the point where most of the recording sessions I do now are at home, which I always prefer playing with other humans in a studio. There's just nothing like that experience, but you just can't fight where the trends are going. So so I started, I kind of started advertising the fact that I can record remotely. And so I started a website that's basstracksonline.com. And it just kind of tells people like what my studio is like, what my process is like, and give some examples of my recording and my style and what kind of gear I have and all that. And it's just kind of advertises myself as a remote recording bass player. And so that's what that is. And I can do it on the road as well. I always bring some form of recording rig with me on the road so that I can always record on the road. So that's basically what that is. It's just just kind of an online recording business, for myself, just to record bass tracks for people.
Oh, fantastic. We're out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
Man, we covered a lot. Next year I'm going to be touring with Melissa Etheridge some more. Her tour is being built as we speak. It starts at the end of March. Right now, it just goes from the end of March till the end of May. But I know she's a road dog, and I just started with her in the fall. And I know when I just jumped in with her then, but at the end of her tour, she had done over 100 shows for the year. And I think, the plan for next year is probably to do something similar. So I'm sure she'll be out quite a bit. So, you can probably catch me on the road with her. And then in between, I'll be trying to do some more of my own stuff. So, I'll be trying to book some more of that. So, I guess just keep an eye on my website or my Instagram, and hopefully I'll be coming to a city near you.
Fantastic. Well, this is how things are going to work out. But once Jeff gets all of our boogers cleaned up, he's the editing wizard over here. We'll send it to you, and it'll be all polished. And if you could post it to all your socials, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Derek, it was an honor. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care. Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. Cool. Bye-bye.
Everybody hides at home inside their nest of snakes. Everybody grinds the stone and makes their own mistakes. Hide in the headlights, fight the grip of fear. You can make your dreams come true, but you just can't do it here. Hey! Everybody eyes the gun and screams inside their head. Everybody bites their tongue and pays their bills instead. Hide in the spotlights, fight the grip of death. You can have the air you need, but you best not take one breath. Hey! Roll the dice. Take your chances. Everybody knows the game is fixed, there is no prize. Everybody pulls the plug and says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both